What's better on a holiday? Sorry, Americans, but it's a holiday in Europe. Thank you, St. Nicholas in Holland 500 years ago. What's better than two blondes talking about being funny gals, huh? Hey, Mrs. Kathy Klotz-Guest, thank you for coming today.
It's very, very good to be here. I'm so happy to be at this very, very wonderful place with you.
Oh, wonderful place. Your accent, I don't know, is that San Francisco?
You're very close.
Oh,
It's a little France inside of a little San Francisco inside of a airport inside of a Starbucks because it's always a Starbucks.
oh. Kathy, do you know that if you go to Austria, which for my Americans, that's like right beside Germany with the mountains, right? Like, there. If you go to Austria in the airport, there's a help booth for the people who thought they were flying to Australia.
That's funny.
I know. I have an inkling that it's not Europeans who make that mistake.
Oh no, it's definitely Americans, and I know this because my cousin was waiting for a flight for Oakland. She got on a plane to Auckland. So I know that this does happen to Americans. So
No, but they let her on to the wrong plane.
I don't know how they let her on, but she ended up on that plane.
She should become a terrorist because she just got onto the wrong flight going the wrong direction and nobody would have known it was her.
I know. I think that was before, like, I think 9/11 and like before, like all the things.
And let me guess, she's probably a white blonde looking kind of woman. That maybe helps a little bit.
Yes.
What privilege. Speaking of privilege, funny privilege. That's why Kathy and I are here today talking about the power that you get when you can make people laugh. Even in that sentence, right? I can make you do something. I can make you clean your. I can make you make a sound and maybe even snort and like spit. I can make you do that. Like, wow, how does that feel to people? And why do people want power? And they get it.
Yeah. I think it really boils down, and you know this so well from your work. It's like, I think really what people want, the ultimate thing they want is influence and to be seen and heard. I think it really goes back to that. And I think if you can make somebody laugh, you've got their attention now. And now they're open to like hearing you say something important.
Yeah.
The defenses, the defense like windshield in the car goes, wee, comes on down. And I think it really comes back to that. Now, I'm sure we'll talk about it. It's like, I think it's do you use that power? How do you use that power? Because it's
evil, of course, to go to
Auckland. But if you can do that, you have somebody's attention, and that's a very, very magical thing to have.
There's a dicho, like we say in Spanish, a saying, which I heard at the Applied Improvisation Network conference, which is where you and I met with all these improvisers, that they said, this was in Vancouver a year and a half ago now, that most humans cannot tell the difference between feeling loved and being heard.
Ooh, that's a really powerful thing. I hadn't heard that. And I
conference.
I know, and I was so bummed. You have no idea, because of kids, pesky kids. No, I think you hit it on the head. I think that makes so much sense, because really, I think being loved is being seen and accepted for who you are. And when you feel seen and heard in that kind of validation, it's akin to I see you, which is what love is. I see you. I think that's really it. It's just peekaboo with a lot of like feelings.
That's hilarious.
Very good. Object permanence. Oh my God. Yeah.
So I know why I became funny. Do you know why you chose to become funny, or were you born funny?
It's interesting. I have a theory in my research. Here's what I think. More often than not, we are born with that proclivity. It's just somewhere along the line, we either...
What's that word, ma'am?
Proclivity.
What the heck is that?
We are born with, I think, a natural talent. I think everybody has a natural laughter. I think it's either, socialization either triggers that on or triggers it off later on in life. That is my theory, but I think I was born with it because from what I understand from my family, it was like I was just always like that kid, like la 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 la. I was always that kid.
Mhm.
And I think that's true. And I think there was a time in my life where I was encouraged. Then there was a time in my life where, out of college, where the real world, you get out into the real world to get a job, and not so much. Like people were like, what? A funny woman? Oh my God. And
a lesbian.
I know, it's crazy. What is she? Who is she? And I think that's part of it. But I do think, Jessica, back to your point, I think a lot of people are born with that ability. It's just socialization can be, hard on some of us, harder on some of us than others. Yeah.
So now, well, I talked to Lenny Ravitch. Do you know?
Oh, Lenny's a sweetheart. Yeah.
He is. So he was saying he's a very fearful person. If you can't say it, you don't have it. High five. Great. And he's saying that he is so fearful, but he chooses to look at it with levity every time. It's not like he's like, wow, I live in Israel. Tel Aviv's great. It's great to be.
There's nothing bad happening here.
Exactly. So he chooses it. And I was like, oh, I choose it. I know I choose it because I plan it in my head, and I know I'm going to be funny because I know when the line's coming. I've really trained myself. So it's very interesting to see you're born with it and choosing to use it after the corporate world told you no, and you're like, whatever, I'm going to go make a business out of humor.
Exactly. Right? And I think there's where the choice comes in. You're 100% right. It's like, these socialized forces can come, and you can either, shrink from that, or you go, you know what? See you later, and do it because you know that that's a choice you have. And it is a choice. And I love Lenny's attitude about making it a conscious choice, because every one of us has hard crap thrown at us. And you can either go hard crap. It's just like,
sauce, at least. Right?
No, it's hard. It's calcified. It's like,
what did he eat? Yeah.
And I think you could either shrink away from it, or the choice, which is powerful, to say, I can't change this. What I can change is, and I can own my reaction to it. So I want to choose to see it through a levity frame, because I choose the attitude I have. Yeah, that's powerful.
So when you are, I never worked in the corporate world. I've only ever
Lucky
been.
you.
I've never been to a corporate Christmas party. It looks like you hook up and have fun, and then there's stories for a lifetime. No? Isn't it fun?
Sometimes. Yeah.
Those days are done anyway.
Yeah. You didn't miss a lot. You didn't miss a lot. I'll just say that. It
looked really fun. All right. The glamorization from the Office TV show, right?
Yeah. Because there's one thing that corporate America loves. It's funny women.
Okay. So as an entrepreneur, I get to choose what I kind of do. So I have never been put down for being funny. It's been my greatest strength, actually.
Yeah.
So it's like being a funny woman in the corporate world. And what do they say? How mean are they? Do they think you're not serious? But a guy who's funny is more serious. Could you tell me a little bit insight?
Yeah, and I think it's just a function of just the what happens inside corporations is that, women are underrepresented at a certain level. So when an anomaly comes along, we socialize men for being funny, and we praise them. It's like, oh my God, Bob, did you hear that joke? That dad joke? That dad joke was awesome. And you're like, well, you know what a good dad joke is just here, let me phrase that. A mom joke is a dad joke, only funnier. That's what a mom joke is. And
have a mom joke.
Yeah, we don't even see, and that's the thing. We've not normalized it. We don't normalize it. So I think in companies, we're just normalizing, like, Bob's funny and Bob's a good guy and everybody loves Bob. But there's a certain level where, fewer women are represented. And so if a woman is too funny in a room full of men, it's like men that are secure men they love it. Men that might have some challenges maybe don't like it. Then it becomes the specter of, oh, maybe she's not serious. And I don't know that we do that. I don't know. I've never known a guy in all my corporate years, and I'm not in corporate America anymore. They're clients, but I don't work there. I never knew a guy friend to ever say, on my performance review, I was told to not be so funny. I've never, ever heard that. I've Never. Like, or you know what? I was told not to wear that to the office. These are things I've never heard guy friends tell me about their performance reviews.
Oh my God, we should do like a series on whatever platform that it is. It's like things that guys have never been told on 360 feedback things. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Like, we don't even know how to do. There was a survey done. I don't know where it was done. Probably in America, because they like to do surveys a lot on the streets. And sorry, men warning, this is about menstrual cycle. I know that makes us uncomfortable. And they asked men, excuse me, let me, oh, I ate my banana. No, I didn't. Here it is. Excuse me, could you tell me how many tampons a woman uses in her menstrual cycle every month? They're like, oh, like about one? With their banana, not with their head, right? Like,
and she reuses it, right? Because it's good for the environment. So she just recycles that same one, right? Okay.
Bring it out. Yeah, they have like no idea. They have no idea what it's like to be a woman, you know? So when they say those things, like, don't you just want to? But then you're an angry, funny woman.
That's
you know,
it.
So what's worse than being a funny woman is probably an angry woman. I don't know.
That's the only thing worse than being a funny woman is being an angry funny woman. That is you just hit the nucleus of like whoop 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 whoop, get out, it's gonna blow, and it's no good for anybody. So yeah, so then the hard part becomes is that challenge of the line between funny and not threatening. And then the other line, which is like angry, funny, and threatening, whoop, whoop, whoop. And it's a line that I don't think men are put in to cross. Men are not put in that situation. Yeah. Yeah.
So if we can talk about as a communication trainer and with all your experience in that higher level, what is it about humor that threatens people so much? And if we're being specific, men in this case, because amongst men, they're always competing with humor. Like, who's funnier? Oh, Bob's funnier. Oh, your mom.
Your mom is so...
Yeah. Like the joke of the 1990s, your mom is so fat, right?
Right, cringe. Yeah.
So, like when men compete with humor, it's like it's a status, like pecking order thing. And then when we compete with humor, they're like, I don't think you belong in this pecking order game, because we usually weren't included there. So what are we doing and how do they treat us? I think they might be confused. They can't just take it. They're being like, I have to show you up now. I have to insult your mom, but I'm not allowed to. What do I do with it? Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, you violate the rules. There's nothing, I think, to men who love funny women, hallelujah. To men that are kind of like a little like, I don't know what to do with this. It again, socialization is what it is, and it violates the norms of how women are supposed to show up, right? So all of a sudden, this woman comes along, she violates the expectations of what society says she should do, and they don't know what they're like. Wait a minute, does not compute, and all of a sudden you violated the pecking order, you violated the hierarchy, and they didn't expect you to be funny, and now they're like, but funny is our thing. We get validated on funny, and so they don't. It becomes I can even be outstatused by Bob or by John or Suresh or whoever is in the office, but do I let myself get out funnied by Kathy or Jessica? Do I let that happen? And in their minds, sometimes it's like, ooh, that's a violation of a norm. And it often happens, as we know, at that unconscious sort of level, that they don't even realize that might be operating in that background software. They didn't get the updated patch.
You didn't send it out to 90% of the males, unfortunately.
No, we didn't. Yeah.
Darn it.
No.
Okay, this clarifies it for me, because I just didn't understand it so much. And I was like, okay, why don't they just enjoy it? Right?
Some do. Some do, if you're lucky. But the ones that maybe think this is our thing. Now this woman is coming in and she's really funny. And I didn't see it coming, but that's my thing. And
Should we wear shirts that say, warning, I am funnier than the average person with breasts?
Warning, headlights. They were already... they're already looking down there.
Look up. Look at coming out of that mouth.
Hey, my funny's up here.
Yeah, funny's up here.
I think really what it is the more too that they accept you in other realms, like there's a higher proving ground for women. So if you are funny, then you have a higher bar to clear with respect to like competence in your work and all that stuff. So if you check those other boxes, you're given a little more grace, but you got to check those other boxes. Because if you come in and you're like the super funny one and it's a room full of men, it can polarize the room really quickly. And if you've ever felt that, ladies, that's what's happening, is that there's a sometimes unconscious status violation that's happened, and men just are like, my head's about to explode. I don't know what to do with it.
So this is interesting because as we both are in the public speaking realm, like I'm always, just for fun, criticizing men because they're not able to show their emotions. And I have empathy for them because they weren't socialized that way.
That's right. That's right.
We weren't socialized to be funny. And so when men are emotional, we're like, is he gay? Like we jump straight to that. So when men see us and say, maybe she's lesbian, I don't know if we're doing the same thing. This is obviously like old school thinking, but we think as we were trained when we were 8 years old, right? So like these things live in our 40, 50-year-old brains.
They do.
Like, that is not normal. What does that mean? What else does that mean? Isn't there an improv game?
I think there probably is a status game that you could play with in these types of things. I like to, kind of flaunt expectations. So I like to, if I feel that that's happening, I like to match energy. Sometimes what happens too is like, you're so right. We have these preconceived notions on both sides. Men aren't socialized to be emotional. And if somebody violates that, even other men are like, what? And I think that there is that status and expectation thing. And I like to kind of match. If you're in a room and all of a sudden, the energy with the guys is here. I'm not saying be less than who you are. You should never not be funny if that's who you are. Own who you are. But, maybe you don't come in and you're up here. Maybe you're just, you sort of take it down and match the room so that the energy, the trust builds. And then once the trust builds, little by little, you're allowed a little bit more wiggle room. And so wiggle room, not a whole lot, because you're still a lady, but I think it really depends on the room. And I think, I've been in rooms that liked funny women, and I've been in a lot of rooms that did not. And that was just the way it was. Yeah.
So my dad was very funny, and he was always doing like the dad jokes and clowny stuff. And I realized when I was like 16 and I turned into everything that society told me would be successful. Like already by 16, I had like check. I like trained myself to be this. I didn't understand that they meant a successful male. I was like, I'm funny. I have leadership skills. I'm assertive. I'm good at sports. I'm intelligent. I know how to stand my ground. I have a great posture. I'm not afraid of like very much. I'm funny. And I turn out that I'm extremely unpopular with boys, which I thought would be the opposite because I did everything they asked me to do. I'm like the cutest, assiest male I've ever met, but in a woman form, not so popular.
Not so much. Yeah. And it's interesting the unfunny research, but it's like, imagine like back to performance reviews, like, Jessica, you're doing great, leadership, all this other stuff. Just one performance improvement thing. Could you be a guy? Could you make that? That'd be great. That would be, could you do that? That would be.
How do you use this?
Yeah. It's like,
what's the safety thing for?
It's like, hey, I'm packing. It's a banana. Sure, it's a banana, but I'm packing. And I think therein lies the issue, is that what ends up happening is really interesting. The research shows, and it's unfunny, but it's important. The research shows that up till about 12, 13, the goofy girls, it's okay to be goofy. It's the fun thing, and girls are goofy and they're wonderful and beautiful as they are. And then about 12, 13, all of a sudden, the awareness of boys and the opposite gender. And I want the boy to like me, and boys won't like it if I'm funnier than they are. And the boys start to be socialized to like, I'm the funny one. So somewhere around, 12, 13, puberty, it starts to change. And all of a sudden you see girls hold back because they know it will not be popular with the boys. But when you get a gaggle of girls together, of women, a flock of we are hilarious. So I think there's always that like we're constantly sort of code switching. Women code switch too. We code switch. Just, we code switch. We're like a Far Side cartoon. The cows like, oh, the farmer's coming. Okay, everybody be cool. Be cool. And then the farmer leaves and they're like, what? What's up, girls?
Playing everywhere.
Like, yeah.
I can look myself. You didn't know that.
No.
Yeah. Okay. That, I had heard that research somewhere in the back of my brain, but I thought it was just so sad because my nieces are like 12 and 9 and they're so funny. And if they lose that, it's heartbreaking. How can we tell them that it's okay, that only the good ones will like you anyway, so it doesn't matter.
And that is the message. We have to keep normalizing it. I think that's really it, because right around, girls are hilarious. And then somewhere around that age, these norms and pressures. And I think a lot of it is normalizing it for girls and also making sure that, boys know that women are funny. And, my son knows I go off and do comedy and he's proud of it. And it's normal. So like in his world, there is no male comedian thing, because it's like, okay, well, that's what my mom does. So like there's normalize it as much as we can. And make sure that it is not a gender thing. Humor is not a gendered thing. Yes, there's differences, but everybody has it. So it's not like, oh, well, women aren't born with the humor gene. Oh, please. We are funny and hilarious. And more often than not, we don't punch down. Our humor tends to be very, whereas more often men punch down because they're socialized in status to do that. That's a very different game they play. And our game is much more lifting each other up. So I think we just need to keep normalizing that, right? Yeah.
So there's all this stuff about like, get girls into STEM, into science and technology. What about get girls into humor?
Yes.
You think that could be a movement?
Yeah. I think it's getting girls into all those things. And, it's absolutely. And yes, in STEM. And I think it will change when we start normalizing it. And women, unfortunately, in STEM, it'll happen when there's more women leaders, and women leaders are not the aberration, they're the norm. But right now, at the highest levels of tech companies, it's a lot like the United States. We can't seem to get it done. We can't elect a smart woman president. So until that is normalized, I think that's the work that has to be done. And it's going to take funny women, which there are many of us out there, choosing to show up and own it, and not apologizing it, but owning it. Yeah.
I'm even scared that if someone watches this, like some of my like non-fans, in case you're out there, people, like someone, even a woman daring to say she's funny is almost like, oh, really?
Exactly. Yeah? Yes.
Yes. I'm only as funny as the next kind of funny person. I get like 43% of the time I'll laugh, and 60% is like, wah, 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 wah. I try my best, but I'm not funny all the time. So just being like, I'm a funny speaker. If a male does that, we're like, yeah, he's pretty funny. But if a woman does that, I feel like, please don't count how many times the audience laughs and then like nail me for that, right?
Yes. It is so true. I personally, you and I are funny. I don't go around going, look at me, I'm funny. I show up and I just try to be my normal humorous self. And, I think if a woman says she's funny, it becomes a challenge. Oh, really? Yeah. Well, I've got my laughs per minute counter on. Go. And what's interesting is that it becomes a weird kind of dynamic, because humor, as you know, and a lot of people know, some people might not know, humor really isn't about the, zing, zing, zing at the mic. It's just showing up and being playful. And in that context, I think all of us have that ability. So if you're feeling like, well, who is she to do that? I would offer to you, good soul, whoever you are, male, female, whatever. There's a lot of entrenched patriarchy in women. It may be something in you that thinks you can't do it. And the cure for that isn't judging the person. The cure for that is going out and going, oh, what am I missing in my life? I want to do it too. So maybe start having more fun in your life and being playful. And then it becomes not a challenge. It becomes an invite to play. An invite. Yeah.
I won a trip to Mallorca, which sounds exotic for you guys, but it's only like an hour away from here. So it's not that exciting.
That's like me in San Francisco.
Exactly. And I invited like 6 of my girlfriends, and the one is from the Applied Improv Network, Cindy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Very funny, from Holland. And then I have a friend, Maria, who is a Gestalt therapist and a dancer and from Spain. And the 3 of us, I have never laughed that much in my entire existence in 24 hours. It was the most delightful, non-competitive, joyous, improvising, collaborating energy I've ever felt. Like I would have married those 2 women. Like, I wish I was lesbian, right? Like, and none of us are. It's like that, the non-competitive
Yes.
improv energy is life-giving.
It's life affirming. Yeah, that's so true. And if you really, I'd say this to anybody, regardless of gender, and we're off the binary, whatever gender or, you identify with, really, humor is yours to use. And it is a call to lift each other up and to be not in competition, but in collaboration with. But because when we lift each other up and we're laughing together, we're all being funny. We're all using our natural humor, and there's no competitive status thing. And I think we have more fun when, like an improv, folks, when we're playing and we're not making it, turning it into this competitive thing. So I would say, if you aren't having fun, maybe, regardless of who you are, no judgment, this is for your own diagnostic, ask yourself, where am I getting competitive, and what would it look like if I just played and invited other people to be collaborative, and would that change my attitude about it? And probably the answer is yes. Yeah, get out of that status game, because it's a no-win for anybody. I mean, it's exhausting, right? Exhausting. And guys, I don't know if people have told you this, but you're funny too. You can do it.
Funny too.
We love you. We love everybody. We want everyone to use their power of humor. Yeah. Yeah. And to use it for good. I think to use it really for lifting each other up versus competing. Yeah.
So I've studied cultural values. So there's this guy named Hofstede who studied the 4, and then it was added to 6 different cultural values over 40 years. And he looked at like 100 different countries. And so you can measure what countries and the cultures within that are more competitive and collaborative. In the past, they used to call that feminine and masculine. Yeah. Right? And so if you look at, well, just for fun, do you want to guess the most collaborative culture in the world? It's in Europe.
For fun? I would say it's probably collaborative. I don't know, maybe France, Italy. I don't know.
Kind of clip, but tall blonde, right? Go up a little bit more. We'll go to the top.
Really? Really? No. Germany?
No, God.
I was going to say, okay, no. I was going to say Germany. No, I don't think. I'm half German, and I know that ain't right.
Das ist nicht recht. Nein.
Yeah, Sweden. Oh, that makes sense. They also have that. Actually, Jessica, you hit on something really, really important. It's no accident or no coincidence. I think they also have these really high, like Finland and Sweden, happiness rates. They're happy. And I'm wondering if there's that collaboration is part of why they have they're a happy people.
They also have high alcoholism rates. So that might also be related to that.
That could be. That could also be. That's not good.
That's how you do the poll.
That's right. Right. That could be bad. That's not a good thing. Oh, Sweden. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I'm guessing the most competitive is Israel. So if you want to do a negotiation between those 2 cultures, you put 2 people from those cultures and you put them in a room together, their styles are going to be completely different. And socializing girls to not be funny and to be the receivers of humor, and males to be the givers of humor. That's like the male energy. I give you humor, and the woman receives humor. Sorry for that graphic description, people, but that's how the energy goes. Yeah. Then if we're doing the opposite, it's like, I don't have 2 of them. I ate one with cornflakes this morning, but the energies don't actually work because it doesn't, you got to go somewhere else.
You got the, I know. It's like, whoop, whoop, whoop. Yeah. It's interesting. And I think you're onto something, because, if you look at the research on like humor and men, and I've done it, the research about humor is always with involving women is always women as the receivers, not the initiators. And you're so right. And it's interesting. It's always, I pull up the study and it was probably paid for by men, and the men are studying women as love interests, and how they, in other words, and how they're attracted to women who find them funny. So it's, and it's like, well, yeah, that was a bunch of men that paid for that study. I don't think the women funded that, but it's interesting. And you're right. You're so right. It is a different energy. Yeah. Yeah.
We did this thing in a like a Burning Man type Gestalt thing where we sat in circles and everyone was straight. There weren't any bi people in the room. So it was really our quite natural energies that way. And the men, we would like imagine the giving energy, and the women would breathe in when they leaned toward us with the receiving. And everyone felt actually quite comfortable in that. And then we switched roles. So the women went in the middle circle and the men on the outside. And we did that giving, kind of like imposing, making energy. Yeah. And then the men, they breathed in and they like received us. And it was extremely uncomfortable because it was a reverse of what we've been doing and what our natural straight bodies have been doing for the last 20 years with the opposite genders, right? So if we do think really clean about like the scientific part of it, it's like, it's just competing, it's knocking at each other. And that's what energy usually happens with male humor.
Yeah.
But the women one is receiving, and you know, if they have it, I think we do it in a collaborative way. I don't know how the studies on our energy and our humor works, but
yeah, well, the studies that I've looked at do show patterns that male energy with humor does tend to be status oriented. Men are more likely. Sorry, guys, Jessica and I did not initiate these studies, so take it up.
We don't have the money to initiate.
Yes, we don't. So take it up with them. But it really is true. It's men are more likely to punch down with humor because that is how men tease each other. How do men show love with each other at sports? They smack talk each other. They use a lot of like, hey, you know what I mean? But that becomes a competitive, that I love you. That's how men show friendship and love. Whereas women, when they get together, the way that they show humor and love is much more collaborative and making us all laugh, and we all contribute. We all tell a story. We all listen. And it's a very different energy. And you're right. And I think it's just normalizing that as, you know, humor does not have gender. It just does not have gender. We've attached gender to it simply because of socialization, saying it is a male thing. So when a funny woman comes along, we're like, oh, she's acting like a man. No, she's not. She's just being her funny self. We've all been the product of socialization, all of us. And let's just stop attaching a gender to a quality that is a wonderful human quality. Yeah. That's all. That's it. We don't need no bananas. I mean, you can take the banana if you want. Sometimes put it on the table. That's a bold move. Just like, here's my banana, guys. Any questions? I just want you to know I'm packing. Here it is.
Funny women.
Yeah, that's all. And I think we make the world better when everybody shows up and uses it. As long as it's positive, like you make the world better. I mean, can you imagine half of the people out there, or if you're on a non-binary kind of on the spectrum, it's like you don't even think of it like that, right? It's just you being yourself, as you should be, Yeah.
I feel very grateful to have been in environments that I haven't, to not have been in a corporate environment, I suppose. Yeah. I've never been in a competitive environment. I have no idea what that's like. It sounds horrible. Yeah. I used to be jealous of it, but
no.
Well, it's just any place that's competitive is not very fun for extended periods. After the basketball game's over, you know, I played professional basketball. Like, we wanted to rip the eyes out of the other team. But when we were done, we were like, yo, who's that cute guy at your school, right? He's like, you know, like, hey, you scratched me with your nails. That's a nice color.
Yeah.
It was over. But like staying in high tension and high stress and high competition, which is what I imagine guys are doing. Like, those poor souls, if they're completely always competing and they don't get to relax, I think they relax when they go home. And we laugh at their jokes. But if they're in that place, like, no wonder women don't want to be at the top. who the frig wants to be in like a competitive energy all the time? And then when you're competitive, they put you down. Like, ew, I don't want to be up there.
It's exhausting. It's exhausting, right? Because it's always, to your point, that energy is always intention versus collaborative.
Yeah.
And what it would be like if it was more collaborative. I mean, I think there's a place for the competitive stuff. Obviously, you and I both know that sometimes we have to, it's okay in the right circumstances. It works. It works.
Yeah.
However, to stay in that constant, amped up, adrenalized, I'm competing. One of us must die. It's a Highlander situation. There can only be one. That is exhausting. That mentality, and it is. And for men out there, who love funny women, women aren't socialized like that, and you have to understand that we look for the collaborative win. So it's not like a win-lose. We try to find the win-win, and it's just the way that we tend to be wired. And there are exceptions. Not all women are wired the same way, of course. Not all men are wired the same way. But generally speaking, that heightened state of always being competitive is, for women, it's just a foreign thing. And so you need both energies, and you need balance. And you need balance. Yeah.
I know we've went over 20 minutes. Do you have a couple more minutes?
Yeah.
It's like 8:30 a.m. for you.
Friday. It's Friday.
Come on. Yeah, it's a holiday here, so just take that energy in.
I'm receiving it. I receive it.
So girls I've lived in 5 continents. I've been to 6 countries. Wow. Everywhere I've been that I've understood anything about the culture, girls are socialized to be collaborative. And if we're not collaborative, it's kind of like we talk about the girl a little bit like behind her back, like, right? We a little bit witty, right? Yeah. And that's, to some degree, that's like how we keep us in line, and we get status by making sure that everyone's included. And the more people I know and the more people I'm like nice to, it's like, if I'm popular, I have high status, and I can't get popular by insulting people's mother or like their asses, right?
No.
Or their penis size, like that's not going to make me popular. And then I lose status.
Right.
So competitive humor goes completely against what I'm trying to go for in my feminine circle, right?
Exactly. And there are extremes, and you're right. It's like women are socialized to be givers. And like, if you're the woman that stands out and says, well, I will help you all, but I have limits to my time, and starts to put down boundaries, and then all of a sudden there are some women, that are like, oh, she doesn't help women. And it's like, that's not true. She's valuing her own time, but it's such a foreign concept that when they see a woman they think she's adopting sort of a guy-like, quality. And it's not true. It's just, she's decided, look, I love helping everybody. I love being collaborative, but I don't have collaborative energy all day, every day. I mean, I don't even have rosé all day, every day. So, and it just violates that norm. So whenever those norms, those expectations are violated, it's like and that's what we're talking about, is a violation of a norm. Yeah.
I never realized that, because I'm teaching women boundaries.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, just do it. But I didn't realize that I do it so easily, because I've always been trained to be funny my whole life. So I have no problem with being different than the average woman. But for a woman who's been not stepping out of the form somehow, to now put boundaries down and try humor is probably like, I'm probably overwhelming them. I never really thought about that.
It's a lot. And it also, if they don't have strong boundaries, there's probably a lot of other factors going on too. So if they see a woman come along and own her boundaries and her humor, there may be a little bit of a backlash. It's not their fault. There may be a little flare up in themselves that says, who does she think she is? Who is she? And that is socialized. That is internalized, sexism, but that's because they've been socialized that way. And it's not, it's they're having an adverse reaction to seeing a woman violate a norm that they stuck to. And they're like, but I stuck to the norm. Why does she get to? And then they don't
get rewarded too.
Right. But they also need to understand that there's nothing stopping themselves. It's their own that's stopping them. And I think when we start to learn bigger boundaries, I'm sure you teach this, then all that stuff starts to melt away, because then they realize, I can do it too.
Oh yeah.
That's
what's so great about the improv humor, is because every single person that goes to an improv class I've ever done, I don't know your experience, is funny.
Yeah.
It's like, the beauty. And clown class, I've studied clown for 8 years. I've taken hundreds of hours of clown, and I go to a new clown class. I'm almost the least funny clown in the room, because people naturally, without thinking too hard, are hilarious.
Yep.
I try so hard.
Yep.
Because it's like my identity, and I'm not funny. It's so unfair, but it's so beautiful because it means that anyone can literally just be a little bit more surprising, a little bit unexpected, a little bit more delightful.
Yes. I think we are at our best when we are not trying so hard. And if we could just stop trying so hard, and that's the thing, we're naturally funny. It's not that people are like, oh, I want to be funnier. It's like, well, you are funny. You're probably getting in your own way. And it's probably not your fault because of all the socialized, blocks that we've mentally put up here. Yeah. And so when you get people getting in a place where they can just play, woo, all that stuff goes away. And I think it's really lovely to see. And I do believe our natural state, most of us, regardless of gender, we have this beautiful, playful, funny self. And that's what, unfortunately, socialization grabs that and goes, I'm going to play with it. And we can't let it. We can't let socialization interrupt that. Yeah. Yeah.
Out with socialization. Let the wolves take care of us.
Out with it. Socialization. I'm coming for you. And I got a banana gun. And I'm not afraid to use it.
Yeah.
Look out. I'll make a banana call and a banana gun.
Banana gun.
Which will be funny and non-threatening, but
wow. Thank you. It's really good to hear from someone who's gone through what I never had to suffer through. And this is the whole thing. Let's learn from people that have done it so that we don't have to suffer. Thank you for your tough years.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you for dedicating yourself to humor, because I think humor can heal the world. We've just proved it tonight. It's like, if we were more collaborative, there would be less fights, there'd be less wars, there would be less destroyed families, there would be less hate, there'd be more self-like.
Yeah.
It's just good for us to collaborate more.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And I think you're right. I think we can change the world with it. And I really believe it is our natural birthright. And we just need to go back to that. And so my journey, my arc is really, the short of it is just had it, told not to use it, and had to reclaim it. So to me, it's precious when it's been taken from me, and you've had to work to fight for it and to reclaim who you are. It's very precious. So I will never lose it again. And I don't want anybody to have to do that. So I really want people to own what's rightfully theirs, and joy for everybody.
Yes. Are you funnier than your husband?
Absolutely. But here's the funny part. Here's the really fun part. And he'll admit it, but here's what's funny. My husband has like really good friends from college, and they get together sometimes. So they went out to a restaurant, and I said, how are the guys? And, oh, they're great. Oh, they also asked me, are you funnier than Kathy? And the guys asked him that. And he said two things. Absolutely, she is funnier than me. And also, there's no way I could say she's not, right? And then tell her about it. So yeah, she's funny. But yeah, I am. But he's funnier in a different way. It's more dry. It's like I'm more like ta-da, and he's more of a dry. So yeah.
For those of you listening, there are about 7 to 9 different types of humor depending on who you ask. And so her husband has the dry one, and there's observational one, there's dark humor, there's potty humor, there's clownish humor, kind of the improv humor. There's absurd humor where people are like, that's weird. And so it depends what yours is. You got to own yours, because you probably, as Kathy said, were born with one more than other, more of a tendency. And thus you love it in other people and people love it in you. So you can adapt to other people's style. Like you walk into that room full of competition. Okay, adapt to their level and slowly wiggle it just a little bit. Why don't you wiggle? Yeah.
Wiggle it, and don't be what you're not. Like if you are wit or storytelling humor, or if you're more silly humor, just make sure that it's contextual, and that people also see your warmth and your abilities and your intelligence, all the good things you are, but don't be what you're not. Never. And you can adapt, but if your humor is X, don't try to be Z if Z doesn't come naturally to you, because there's probably a natural humor, to your point, Jessica. It's so important that it's natural for you. And when you use that kind of humor, you shine because it's natural. Yeah.
So, Humor Brave. Tell me about your latest mission.
My latest mission. It's really, I work a lot with leaders and teams, and some women leaders. I work with a lot, mixed teams. And it's really about like, how do we unlock some of that magic without, it's not about like, making it hard. It's like, let's unblock. Where do we unblock? And I think too often people think we have to do these things. And it's the opposite. It's where are you being blocked? And where do we take away this stuff so you can be more of who you are? What's blocking that? So it's really about unlocking more team bravery and boldness and all the good ideas and making it a safer place for people to go, I want to show up and be silly today. And that's beautiful, because if everybody did that, we'd probably have better ideas and a lot more fun, like a lot more fun.
Yeah.
But we have to make it safe and all normalize it and go, yeah, let's all be goofy and let's enjoy it. And that's a great thing. That's a great thing. Let's do it together. Let's be goofy together and see what kind of magic we create. That's fun. And I think it's transformational for teams, actually, I think, and for people. It's healing. I guess it's healing. Oh my God, we're healers. we're healers with banana guns and phones.
There you go. Healing the world one snort at a time, right?
Snort, yeah.
I love when I get my boyfriend to snort. I'm like, oh my God, I'm married like Steve Urkel. And then just like,
isn't that the best though, when somebody snorts because they're gasping for air? You're like, oh my God, I made them snort. I have power.
I have value.
I'm a snort whisperer. Oh my God, thank you. Yes. What can I ask you a question before we go? I know this is fun. What do you think what is your primary mission? And then what is the humor that you think is most natural for you? Those are my two questions.
Yeah. I think I was born with like the goofy.
Yeah.
Actually, we asked this in Toastmasters yesterday, what's your favorite cartoon? And I said Goofy. And that's never anyone's really favorite one. And Steve Urkel was my hero. All right. And Ellen DeGeneres is who I wanted to become.
Yeah.
And I've almost become as good of a dancer as her in my 41 years. Right? I've almost married Steve Urkel because I have a funny Black dude who needs to get glasses, thank God, in the next year. So, and he snorts. Oh,
I mean,
that's a shirt.
Yeah. Who doesn't want that?
So I've pretty much achieved I think it's just, I love to flirt with like strangers and to get them to giggle.
Yeah.
Like just on the subway, like making a face.
Yeah.
I love I love clowning. I just want to make people giggle and like enjoy their day a little bit more. So I don't even know what that type is, but I think it's very present humor.
That's a really great, beautiful gift. I think it's a real gift too. And it's also a gift. It's not just a magical power. I think the beauty in something like that too is that it's magical and for both people, for all people involved. Yes. Because not only are you kind of initiating something, but they're taking the invite to play and it's changing them and it's changing their day. And I think it's just a magical thing that like, it's a good kind of contagious. It's a good thing. Yeah. Yeah. What's your mission? I want to know.
What's my mission? Nobody asks me that very often. My mission: to get 1 million snorts by age 65.
I love it.
Really, I want people to laugh. I really want people to laugh and like themselves more.
Yeah, right? That's a great goal.
That's a great goal. Yourself.
Yeah.
You take life less seriously, and then you're less stressed, and then you're less of an ass to people when they bump you in the metro. And that will stop the world, right?
Right. You know what? I think that's a great goal. What if we laughed more at the little things and reframed those instead of taking them so seriously? And like, that's where I think we control. Back to your thing, it is a choice. You get to make a choice about what you let socialize you out of your own life, and don't give it that power. And making that choice, like Lenny says, to how you're going to show up for yourself and how you're going to make that commitment to laugh more for yourself. It's not just serving other people. You got to serve yourself first. Like, Yeah.
Survival, as he said, right?
Yep.
You laugh or you cry about your nose. Like, what are you going to do about it? Right? Like, finally I get a TEDx, and the picture they put is like, the highlight is my double chin, pretty much. Like, so
no one is noticing that. They're probably thinking about how great you were and how you gave them value. They're probably not even thinking about that, but we are.
But I am. Right? And that's the so we have to laugh at how vain we are and how small-minded we are and how superficial we are, and then go like, my God, I am quite terrible. That's great. And let's like find the joy in that.
Let's own it. It's
Side.
own it. Like, folks, the only difference between, I think, Jessica and I, and probably the average person out there, is that if you choose to embrace who you are and just really own it and own your own imperfection, nobody can do that. Nobody can make you feel small because you already own everything you are. And I think that's power. That's the power.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I want to end on that. I don't want to say anything else. Okay. Repeat that. And then we're going to do like the wave goodbye.
I think when you own who you are with the self-acceptance and humor, I think you show up differently, and nobody can shame you because nobody can tell me that I'm, goofy or weird or like too much or too intense. Cause like, I know all those things and I fully own it and I make fun of it all the time because I accept that about myself. So nobody can shame you when you own who you are. And that's what laughter and humor do for us. So just give yourself that gift and own it. Own it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, my funny friend.
Bye.